My name is Vanessa. I'm 27 years old, and there's a sentence I don't think I'll ever forget. We have no space for her. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was calm, almost casual. And maybe that's what made it hurt the most. Because it wasn't just about space. It was a decision, a judgment, a verdict passed on my 5-year-old daughter like she was an extra chair in a crowded room instead of a child who had just lived through an earthquake. 3 days earlier, the ground had shaken so violently that even after it stopped, I could still feel it in my bones. The cracks in my apartment ceiling stretched like frozen lightning, thin but threatening, and every truck that passed outside made my heart jump into my throat. My daughter wouldn't sleep alone. She clung to my hand at night as if I were the only solid thing left in her world. I stayed awake listening for aftershocks, staring at those cracks, wondering if the next tremor would bring everything down on top of us. I had no backup plan, no savings big enough to move overnight, no partner to call, just me and a frightened little girl in a place that no longer felt safe. So I did what I never thought I would have to do. I called my parents. I stood in my kitchen gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white, rehearsing the words in my head. They're my family, I told myself. Families help each other. Whatever distance had grown between us over the years wouldn't matter in a moment like this. When my mother answered, her voice was calm, almost distracted, and for a second I felt relief wash over me. But the relief faded the moment I explained why I was calling. There was a pause after I asked if we could stay for a few days. A long, heavy silence that stretched so far it felt intentional. Then she said she needed to check with everyone. Check with everyone. As if my daughter's safety required a committee vote. As if I wasn't already supposed to belong. They agreed to let me come over and talk. That word talk should have warned me. I packed one small bag. Just essentials. My daughter sat quietly in the back seat, hugging her stuffed bear to her chest like it was her anchor. The streets were still littered with debris, bits of broken concrete and fallen branches, reminders that life could split open in seconds. But when I pulled up to my parents' house, it looked untouched. The garden was trimmed. The lights were warm. It was almost surreal how normal everything appeared compared to the fear that had taken over my world. Inside, though, the air felt colder than my cracked apartment. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. My sister sat upright on the couch like she was bracing for something inconvenient. My mother wore that tight expression I'd seen before, the one that meant she had already made up her mind. I tried to explain about the ceiling, about the aftershocks, about my daughter waking up crying at night. I tried to keep my voice steady. But before I could finish, my sister let out a sharp breath and said it. We have no space for her. Not for you. Not for both of you. For her. As if my daughter were the problem. As if she were too much. I stared at her, confused, because her kids each had their own bedrooms and there was even a playroom bigger than my entire apartment. But she kept going, talking about routines, privacy, disruption, words that sounded logical but felt hollow. My mother nodded in agreement. My father stayed silent, and somehow that hurt even more than the words. I looked down at my daughter. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she understood enough. Her fingers tightened around mine. She looked up at me, searching my face for reassurance I wasn't sure I could give. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, solid realization. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry in front of them. I nodded once and said, noted. The drive back felt longer than the one there. Heavier. Every bump in the road felt magnified by the weight pressing on my chest. But beneath the pain, another memory began to surface. My grandmother's trust. Something the family always treated like a sentimental gesture. A symbolic inheritance. I hadn't thought much about it. I hadn't needed to. That night, after I laid my daughter down on a mattress pulled away from the cracked walls, my phone rang. An unknown number. The man on the other end introduced himself as a lawyer handling my grandmother's estate. He said he needed to meet urgently. 3 days later, a dark sedan pulled up outside my parents' house. I stood across the street, my heart pounding but my mind clear. The lawyer stepped out with a leather briefcase and the calm confidence of someone about to change everything. He knocked. My sister answered. I watched her expression shift from curiosity to unease. Within minutes, he was inside. I followed when he signaled for me. The living room felt smaller than I remembered, like the walls themselves sensed what was coming. The lawyer began to speak in a steady, precise tone. My grandmother's trust wasn't symbolic. It was substantial, structured, detailed, and she had named me as trustee, the person with controlling authority. Not my parents, not my sister, me. Because, as the lawyer read from her statement, she believed character should outweigh convenience. I saw the shock ripple across their faces. But then came the clause that changed the air in the room completely. Any beneficiary who willfully refused reasonable shelter or aid to a direct family member in documented distress could have their discretionary benefits permanently revoked at the trustee's discretion. Silence fell like something physical. My sister started talking first, fast and defensive. My mother tried to soften what had been said days earlier. My father remained frozen. The lawyer turned to me. The decision, he said, was mine. In that moment, I could have taken everything. Every sleepless night, every dismissal, every time I felt secondary. It all rose to the surface. But what surprised me wasn't anger. It was clarity. Power doesn't have to destroy to prove it exists. I told the lawyer I wouldn't revoke anyone's future. I wouldn't erase them the way they had nearly erased my child's dignity. Relief filled the room. But I wasn't done. I said I would be restructuring my own life. I would buy a new home, a safe one, a place where my daughter would never feel like she needed to justify her existence. Their relief shifted into something quieter, something closer to shame. I signed the documents, thanked the lawyer, and walked out. The sunlight outside felt sharper somehow, cleaner. My daughter sat in the car, humming softly, unaware that anything monumental had just happened. I looked at her and realized my grandmother hadn't just left me wealth. She had left me perspective, a reminder that family isn't about who has room in their house. It's about who makes room in their heart. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to take everything from the people who underestimated you. It's to walk away knowing you never needed their space to begin with.